Hey everyone.
Hi guys.
Hi, I'm actually going to adjust, you guys can hear this too, I'm going to adjust my necklace because I'll watch that. You know, if you were watching someone else and something about their like necklace was like twisted wrong, because I look at the microphone.
Yeah, you need to be careful with the necklace on the mic.
Don't worry.
This is what
inside.
This is what Editor Becky always tells me off for.
Editor Becky mentioned number 1. And welcome to the show.
Welcome to Blonde Vibrations.
I'm Eliz.
I'm Lilyemma.
So this is Blonde Vibrations.
This is Champagne Whispers episode 34.
Crazy times.
And we actually, by the time this episode comes out, this is old news, but to us right in this moment, it's current news, is that we just celebrated our 3rd Blonde Vibrations anniversary.
We made it through the terrible 2s.
Yeah.
And they weren't terrible.
No.
It was quite a nice time actually.
Yeah.
So we're 3.
So yeah.
We're 3.
Happy birthday, guys.
Happy birthday, everyone.
Thanks for
tuning in.
Yeah,
thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been a real pleasure, and to go from I haven't prepared a speech. I know I want to say speech. I really wasn't expecting to be stood here today talking to you all like this in such a vulnerable manner, but to go from the radio show that we just kind of did, and can't lie, it's not like we started on week 1 on that radio show and was like, we're going to have a podcast that we come back to fortnightly and then we'll also do advice, but then we also have a blog.
I don't think it was ever in the stars when we started that we were going to be like advice podcasting.
We kind of had a couple of people in mind that we might want to interview, and we were kind of just like, we do this anyway, so we'll do it on the radio show for student radio, but there was never really like any like tangible permanence to what we were putting out there.
And it was also kind of like, while it was something we both had always wanted to do, even when we first started out, it was never kind of, this is something that we could genuinely do and be taken seriously. Like, it was very like, it was an alien idea.
It's just great, but interesting to know that like the BBC takes us seriously, and like these festivals take us seriously, and we go to these networking events,
and like artists who we like take us seriously and want to come on and want to talk to us and like
admire us,
and see us as equals. Like so often, like someone who we've had on before, or someone who we just are like mutuals with on social media, will like take us seriously or say like, yeah, like these guys are really cool, and we're like this is crazy. Like, because like it was never something that we thought,
we didn't think
get there.
We didn't thought that at all.
Yeah. It was just kind of,
it wasn't that.
It felt like the most casual and low key thing ever.
It was low stakes, and the stakes slowly started to increase. But I think we've adapted to that and done really well with it, because now we're like leaning into something we really enjoy doing, and like no matter where it takes us, we have to like acknowledge where it started off. Yeah. Which was nothing, and now we have all of this like, got the social medias, we have every little part of Blondtopia, a small little like empire of us, and we talk a lot about what ifs. We were out for drinks the other day and we had a whole what ifs. That would be a really good episode, to be quite honest with you. But I think like because I was going to do student radio the year before, so I think what if I did it then, like what would have been the outcome? Obviously I would prefer this outcome and like to think about this one a lot more, but it wouldn't have been this ever, and this is incredible and amazing. I think it was very like coincidental that we both wanted to do it, and it just randomly came up one day. And it's just crazy to me that like people enjoy listening, and like I should hope so, because we do put a lot of, I know, and I say this to a lot of people, because a lot of people kind of, when they find out about the podcast, or even like other people in the industry, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'd love to do a podcast, and I'm like, it's really hard work. We make it look easy, it's really hard work, and while it looks like we come on here and we just chat rubbish, there is more that goes on behind the scenes. I mean, we've got Becky that like majorly helps, makes the life a lot easier.
And obviously Jasmine really helps with like building actually like a visual like landscape for
many hands make light work.
But I think it's crazy to me that people want to tune in and just like hear us basically talk rubbish. While it's more than that, it's still at its core, I can't believe people like look forward to listening to us for 40 minutes and take us like our advice.
And it's fun work as well. Like I enjoy doing it. And the thumbnails, I don't know if you have seen over the last few months, this is a small win to like that I just want to shout out.
The blonde kind.
Look at the thumbnails for the last few months, because they've low-key slayed.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of another word.
Like, Jasmine,
more.
she's coming for you.
Yeah, like, it's small things, but it's the detail of it which I'm really enjoying doing. And like, yes, it takes that little bit of extra time, but I think the payoff looking at it is just insane.
Yeah.
It's things like that. It's fun work to see it come to fruition in some way.
And I think while it's 3 years of us sitting down and talking, I think in the past year, I feel like we must have spoken about our second birthday this time last year, because we were doing both types of episodes. But I feel like in the past year, Blonde Vibrations has just become more than the show. I mean, you obviously designed the entire website, like, you're working hard on social media, there's other things happening. It feels like it started as us sat in the radio suite talking about like our days and our nights out, and it was just really like crunchy and no one could really hear us, and now it feels like this really, but it is like Blondtopia, do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like something really unique, and it feels like a space in which like we come and we can be creative and we can be ourselves, but I also feel like other people can kind of like take part in that. And I really like, I don't know, I think the past year has just been like, not necessarily like, I felt like the first 2 years were monumental in the sense of we were hitting milestone after milestone, but I think the past year was really important in kind of becoming like a three-dimensional,
That's the exact phrase I was about to use.
Yeah, like a three-dimensional thing that was more just like, more than a radio show. I think it's something really like, not to pick us up, but it's something really unique
There's
and
more
long-lasting.
there's more on offer than just this. If this is all you know us for is the advice, hey, there's more to us actually, because we have the whole music side as well, but because it is more like three-dimensional as well, anyone can take small amounts away from it that you want, and you know us in so many different ways now, whether it be just TikToks or just the blog because you happen to come across the Suki review or something like that, which was really good, by the way. You should check that out. That was one of my favourite things I've ever read on there. Or like this, or you really do miss the radio episodes, which I understand, and you know, one day you never know where things might take us, or the interviews, you miss them, things like that.
I miss the interviews, like that was such like an era.
I miss the interviews too. Whatever you take away from us, it's nice that you can take that small piece, and there's so much on offer, and it will continue to be. And yes, like you said, the first 2 months was hitting things we've never done before. What did I say?
Months.
Hey, it's been a long time.
First 2 months too, I guess.
Yeah, facts. The first 2 years were doing things for the first time. The third year was like planting the seeds that would become the roots for the future.
It feels like it's an undergraduate degree, and the third year was like, you have to like put your head down now. The things you do now is what you're actually going to take away from the degree. I feel like that we've done our final project, and we've graduated. We're like top of the, what is it, honor roll. Like, we're valedictorians. Is that what they're called?
Yes.
It's also America. We're doing our valedictorian speech right now. You know, head girls. And I think it was important for us just to kind of, feels like really off topic, but I also feel like it's very core to what Blonde Vibration started as, is us kind of noting this before we get into dilemmas. And I also think it does actually lead into the topic, because I think,
yes,
I mean, I don't want to get into
because I have one more thing to say is this year also feels very different, and it almost feels like there was a big reset on what we were doing that is now the consistent thing that we are doing. It almost feels like we've had different stages that have almost been like false starts into like what we are doing. Like the radio show was something in itself, but it was like the false start of like what we are now. And like that's not to say we'll never interview at festivals again, because we probably will, but that was a whole era as well. But we've taken what we need from both of those things. And I think there was almost the rebirth of Blonde Vibrations last year. So it almost feels like a first birthday in itself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I agree. It almost feels like the first birthday of Blondtopia, but the third birthday of Blonde Vibrations.
Like we were work in progress, and we still are, and always will be, because there's always more to do. But this is the first year it's been like, hey, we kind of have like a brand for ourselves, truly, and we're so complete. You look at us from all angles, and there's something there. It's not like the show, nothing from behind.
It feels so like coming of age almost. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like we have done so much and we always did it with our whole heart, but it feels like now it's almost like we've managed to find a way that we can incorporate all of those, and we've taken them on board, and we've formed something that feels so like chronically us in every way possible. Like, I'm kind of at the point now where, like, when people ask me like, what's the podcast, I'm like, I can't answer that in a short sentence. I was like, you kind of need to just go down like the rabbit hole of Blondtopia and just like read the articles, look at the social media, listen to the podcast, you know, watch our interviews. And I think that's what it is. I don't think it's necessarily, I don't think you can kind of say, oh yeah, Blonde Vibrations is a podcast. It's kind of, it's almost like a podcast by Blonde Vibrations now.
Yeah. And I feel very grateful for our audacity.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, as like a takeaway, and again, this goes.
And
into
while
what
we're talking about this, it's so funny because it's like we're acting like, you know, the BBC's begging to sign us. They're like, please come back to radio. And we're like, no, sorry, like, we're actually dedicated to the Blondtopia. Like, we can possibly.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever told this story on the podcast or the radio show. I think it would have been too fresh because it was radio show days, but we had the radio show for probably a total of maybe 6 episodes, and then we met someone, like a known person, which I won't tell you here. We had nothing to show for it.
We had never interviewed anyone.
We had barely anything. Like, if you went onto our presence, we'd never had any, like, there's nothing to go onto our Instagram at the time and think like, yeah, you can
I think we
pull in an artist and
maybe
interview
like
them.
200 or 300 followers, which is a lot, but also you got to think we probably followed about 600.
And it might not have even been that many.
No.
It could have been like 80 followers.
Yeah.
Waltzing up to this person, and we're like chatting.
Great show tonight.
We're chatting it. You're giving it the big and being like, yeah, really good on stage. So we'd really love to talk to you about this a lot further. If you'd like to come on Blonde Vibrations sometime, we're a radio show. You'll have to come into, you know, the uni campus, and you'll have to share a microphone with one of us. But, you know, I really think this would be good. Yeah. And it wasn't even like questioned, weirdly, because our audacity.
Yeah, I think they were just like, yeah, sounds great.
And I think at some points we've lost the kind of like audacity and confidence in that a bit, but I think we're back.
We're starting
like,
to.
You know what? If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah. I hit someone with it the other day, and I did feel like I was like the age that we were when we started. And, you know, the whole, like, you just have to believe in it. And I think that's something we've always been very good at. I think we've had, like, I especially have had like wobbles with it where I'm like, oh, like, I think it's normal with anything to kind of feel a bit imposter and feel a bit like, well, people don't want to talk to us. And then now and then you have to like fight or fight and be like, hey, like, saw your vibe from across the festival grounds. Here's my card. Do you know what I mean? And I think,
it's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take type beat.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for our attitude in that, and that we are and I think in that Seffi and Wing episode, in which they mentioned us that we spoke about last episode, was because I remember I messaged to them on the podcast account, and in that episode they were saying like we had such audacity that they were like, we started and we just like,
you just assume that that's
gonna
thing.
do it, and it's just truly wholeheartedly believing in it. And I said to them, I was like, I'm so glad you said that, because we are exactly the same, and I'm so glad that we are. I'm so glad that we have done all of the things that we've done in the past 3 years with such assurance,
conviction,
with such conviction that there was no space for failure. And I think that A, made people in the industry take us seriously, but B, I think people believed in us. And that then leads me on to my second thing, is that I'm so thankful that like everyone who listened, whether we had like 5 listeners at the time or not, everyone's always just taken it so seriously. Like, even our friends, they never listened and was like, I'm just listening to your voice note. Like, it was always like, people always took us very seriously, which means a lot, as like, especially when we started as like women who there wasn't that many in there in the industry at the time. There obviously was women radio hosts and things like that, but to be like two blonde, very early 20-year-olds, it could have really blown back in our face. But for the most part, people took us seriously, and like people who I didn't expect us to.
Well, I know we would have spoken about this before, but we just assumed everyone was gonna like take the mick out of us.
Yeah.
And
not take us seriously at all, and just be like, these girls are just trying to get backstage to like kiss a couple musicians.
We got backstage.
Like either way.
Like, oh my, we did though. Did you?
So this is such a long tangent. You know, we've just spoken for 15 minutes of a 40-minute episode, but it is important, and I think
it's important to this episode as well.
Yeah, it's important to highlight your successes, and we'll get into that. I'm sure everything we say in this episode is going to go back to the podcast, so maybe we introduce the dilemma of the week, and we'll probably continue talking about this for the next 30 minutes anyway.
Okay, so how can I overcome the feeling that I self-sabotage? Why am I stopping myself from experiencing good things that come my way?
And I've looked down at my notes, and straight away it's just what we were just saying.
Well, I want to say, before like going into like the inner workings of how you actually overcome it, I think the first step is actually grasping that this thing is in front of you that is good. Yeah. Because you don't always see it as a good thing, you just see it as another thing that's going to have a bag of stresses that come with it, or the things you're going to have to work hard to do. But I've said, like, if you acknowledge the good thing that comes your way, whether you've worked 10 years to get it, you knew someone that got you in or recommended you, you happen to overhear a conversation, you were like, I'm fine with that, or like you trip and fall into a man and that's the man and he's gorgeous or whatever. You have that thing there. If you can single that out, vocalize, you know, in this fleeting moment that is the world, this good thing is here. If you can make time stop and be like, this is a good thing in front of me, before I take any steps either which way, I have to say out loud, this is a good thing, it's an opportunity, career, you know, socially, romantically, it's a good thing. Once you acknowledge that, it's easier to then take the steps in any direction.
And I also think in that same vein, it's a very big step to be able to sit there and go, I'm self-sabotaging this, because I think while it's a very prominent topic, I think because everyone talks about it and everyone thinks about it, I think it's also very like, whoa, to think about like, why do I think I don't deserve this?
Why am I like this?
Why am I like this?
I'm sorry. Heartstopper reference.
But it is true, I think it feels, and I think it's probably an our generation thing, that we're more like very introspective and very kind of reflective, and also like in a world of thought daughters, like
guilty.
I think it's really important to kind of look and be like, that's really weird that I don't believe I deserve something good.
Like, why is there a good thing there and I'm not like jumping at it?
Yeah, and
why
I think,
is that? Why am I not relishing in this thing?
Absolutely.
That comes
I actually
me?
said that exact phrasing somewhere in these
relish.
notes. Yeah, I love the word relish.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and this is what I mean by like my first notes were basically talking about what we were just talking about, is that I feel like it's a very like female thing as well to downplay your successes and, you know, never feel like you're too comfortable or happy in something. And I think it's this idea that is still remaining, that like women are always kind of insecure in their position. Do you know what I mean? Like, you should never quite be too happy in your position. You know, if you've just gotten a promotion, don't get too comfortable, because there will always be someone ahead of you.
And then it's also like, oh, if you get into a relationship, like, why is everything about your relationship now? Like, you can't be happy wholeheartedly about this new person that you're seeing and now love or whatever, because then you're going to be looked down.
Yeah, and it's also even in the love argument with this kind of gendered idea, is that I think a lot of women, when they get into relationships, kind of, especially like straight relationships, think like, well, he's probably just like chosen me to settle down with. Do you know what? Like, there's always going to be something better out there. And I think that is so enlisted, and I think it's something that people are starting to step away from and kind of thinking like, no, like, it needs to be completely equal. But I definitely think there was this kind of idea that if you're in a relationship with a man, he's kind of like always going to be like lowering himself to be with you. Do you know? And I think a lot of the time that is still there, and I think it's those kind of underlying power structures. Yeah,
because if you were a man, would you still be thinking the same thing? But, you know, if a promotion is just coming your way and it's because, I don't know, your friend was the like reference point or whatever for who's getting that. If you're a man, you wouldn't think like, oh, why do I deserve this? Why am I? Should I be taking it? Am I taking it away from this person? Am I doing it? No, you'd already have the new title on your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You would.
It's in your email signature. Like 5 minutes later, you've gone back to your desk.
You've put out a MailChimp
just to let everyone know, this is my new title now. And I think, you're kind of told as a woman to kind of not rub in your successes or to be an attention seeker. But it's like, it's not attention seeking to kind of give yourself your flowers and to be like, no, I actually worked hard for this. And it's something that I've kind of recently been thinking about, because the further I get in academia, I'm like, oh, like I just got offered this because like my supervisor did it. Like, you know, my supervisor put in a good word. And I've started saying to people like, I need to stop doing that. You know, even like
I say it too. I say you got it regardless.
On the podcast a while ago, I think when I started the PhD, and I think maybe in my birthday episode, I was saying about how I had to train myself to be like, I'm doing a PhD, not I'm doing a PhD but it's self-funded, but it's that same thought process, you know, kind of being like, oh yeah, I've got this new role in a research centre, but like it's because I've worked for the director before. And it's like, but yes,
and now you have that position
because you know them. But it's not actually academic nepotism, because that's how the world works, is that you work hard, and I kind of keep saying like, I've worked really hard in my 5 years of academia, that's why people now hand me things. Do you know what I mean? And
it's taking away the reasons behind it, regardless of what they are. It's almost like taking away all of the explanation, because you don't have to explain any of it.
No.
You don't have to say, but I worked this, this and this. On the other hand, you don't have to say, but I know this, this and this person.
No.
Either of them can be taken away, regardless, you have it.
And I don't think a man would do that. I don't think a man would be like, yeah, I got this position, but it's because I've worked for them before. I think they would just be like, yeah, I got offered it.
I got the position, full stop.
Yeah.
You don't have to explain why.
Yeah, and I think it kind of feels like if you're, like, I don't know, it feels like if you're being too big about it and being too kind of showy, that it's gonna like fall down and you're gonna embarrass yourself.
Yeah. Well, I've said that like at a more basic level, like the gender argument aside, a lot of it is self-esteem based, and that can be like how you've been raised, how you've been shown love, how the people around you act. Because we spoke a couple of weeks ago about how your friends act when you get things. You know, if you came home to me and said you got this like promotion, as you do, and when we have the celebration, and then we go and get the cakes, and they might be the orange sticker cakes, but we get you the cakes.
Yeah.
But if you came home and were like, I got another position, I'd be
like another
why?
One? Like, really?
Why do you have that?
Yeah.
You've not worked hard enough. Then you're gonna start to think, maybe I don't deserve it. Maybe I shouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
I won't. I don't need another and then you're gonna self-sabotage that based on what you've known before.
Yeah. And it's also the idea of being greedy, isn't it? Like, greedy in success. And I think there's kind of this idea of like, if you keep like wanting more and keep going for more and getting more, you're almost being greedy, and you're taking from other people.
It's a dog eat dog world.
Yeah.
Eat.
Yeah. Because it's there, so you need to. And not to talk about another podcaster, but actually, as I was writing this, I was like, I was inspired. Because Emma Chamberlain spoke about self-sabotage. I think I spoke to you about this because I listened to it last weekend. And she was saying kind of the higher she gets in her career, the worse she thinks the fall's going to be. So then she spends the whole time... She was like, I hate when things are going well, because I just spend the whole time thinking like, it's going to fall down. Like, she can't actually celebrate when she's at the top. And I think the idea of falling down and rising is a realistic thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you might get a promotion, but then everyone else get a pay rise, and you don't get the pay rise because that's not your grade anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like you don't necessarily. It's not always that, and you will sometimes go up and down. But I think when that's then harder is because once you're too aware of that, you think like, well, I'm doing well right now, but next
what goes
month,
up has to come
yeah,
down.
absolutely.
I haven't listened to that podcast, but I probably should, because it's very relevant. But I've thought of a similar track that we do this because we're kind of scared. And I've said that there is a vulnerability in getting what you want and achieving things, or getting into the relationships that you've basically been manifesting for years. Someone really likes you and it's like not unrequited. It's requited, if that's a real word. It's requited. Or you've always said you wanted this job or a role in something and you get it. It's vulnerable to sit there and be like, I have what I want, because there's always that thing in the back of your mind that thinks someone else has the opportunity to come and take it away.
Yeah.
Or I have the opportunity to do something that means it's going to be removed. However, right in front of you is the key to something that's going to unlock contentness every day for you.
Yeah.
Whilst there might be stresses that come with that, if you're being presented with an opportunity to do something you want to do, and you can outwardly say that is what you want to do, not what you feel like you have to do, the stresses and the pressures that come with it, you want, in this decision, if it's something you want, you've acknowledged all the sides of like the good, bad, the ugly of the thing in front of you, and you know it's worth it. I talk a lot about like doing a job that has more benefits than the stress, or a course that has more benefits than the stress. You know you want it at the end of the day.
It's never going to be completely sunshine.
Yeah, but you have to
isn't.
acknowledge that, because at the end of the day you have this opportunity to do the thing you want.
Yeah.
Of course you have to take it, but then everyone, like publicly, everyone kind of knows that you have this thing you want.
Yeah.
But actually, no one is looking and thinking, well, they're not just going to fall away. They're going to break up, or she's going to lose that job, or drop out, whatever. No one is thinking
and if
that.
They do.
You can't hear that. That's inside
if you get a promotion and they think, oh well, actually, I heard that they're adding a new position above that role anyway,
and
so what's
maybe I'll get that one day.
Yeah, it's just like that doesn't change anything.
And I think that by looking at the thing that's, you know, the key to unlocking your happiness, if you don't pick it up, you're throwing away that. And in place, you're picking up a key. Yeah, you're picking up a key to unlock the door to everyday discontent. But it is true, do you know what I mean? And almost an emptiness every day, because you've just walked into an empty room instead of the room that has the job, or the love, or the opportunity, or the tickets to something you weren't really sure about. Like every single part of your life, you can self-sabotage. Yeah. It can be any sort of journey, a spiritual journey, a religious journey, anything you want. If you've decided like, oh, I have to take that back seat, you're walking into an empty room. Yeah. And whilst there's always a rejection is redirection, it doesn't quite have the same ring to it if you're rejecting yourself. Yeah. Why would
Because that's not redirection, because you've not given life its chance to redirect you.
You've
redirected yourself. It's like saying like...
You closed the road.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, I've been like... I took the long way to work because I took a wrong turn. And it's like, well, you took the wrong turn. It's not that there was a road closure and you had to go the long way. Yeah. You've
chosen that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And I think that, yeah, again, it all comes back to this, like, not low self-esteem, but in those moments you're not truly believing in yourself. And, like, it can come into, like, the romance sense of things as well. If you have this person in front of you that likes you, sometimes you can think, yeah, but like you said earlier, they look for something else, or do they really like me there?
Sorry, I just hit Elizabeth. She just hit me. And it seemed so bad.
It was so like, shut up. Like, no, that's a hot take, shut up.
It was right on the bruise as well. Like, pressure points.
But yeah, you can think, you know, what was I even saying? Oh, the person that you're with, or who's pursuing you or whatever, you know, you might think, I'm not worthy, I'm going to break up with them, or I'm going to ghost them. And then also you kind of begin this cycle of, then the next time someone comes around, you can be like, well, the last person didn't like me. Yeah. Or, you know, well, it didn't work out last time, so what makes, you know, the last date, it worked bad. But, okay, what did you do? You ghosted them. So then when the next person comes around and likes you, you're like, yeah, well, the last one didn't work out, we stopped talking anyway.
So and what's the point? And then you're having this, like, big, like, nihilistic argument for life. It's like, well, nothing matters because everything could always end in failure. Well,
but I said,
what are you living for?
That's not even the neutral, objective version of events. That came from the sabotage perception of why the thing, person, opportunity left, because you did it, and then what? Like, I don't particularly have like a very profound way of ending that, but if you sabotaged it and you can't acknowledge that that is a cycle that you keep putting yourself into, when the next good thing comes around, you're going to do it, but you're not going to figure out why these things keep going wrong. It's because you're going back to the comfort of what you've done before. And then there's also a bit of, and people don't like to say it, but enjoyment of being like, woe is me. Like, like, why do things go wrong?
And it's that, I think it is also that idea that it's more comfortable, and this is again what I'm always kind of saying, is that it's more comfortable to be at the bottom because you know things can't get worse. Whereas if you're at the top, you're kind of anxious about falling back down. Whereas she was like, I'm at my happiest when like no one cares about me, because I can just do whatever I want to do, and there's no stakes in it, because there's no risk of it falling down and everything crashing and burning and you're falling from such a height.
But then are you content? If you're content with that, then sure, but I don't think you would be. And also there's such a defense mechanism to it that the world can't hurt me because I'm already at the bottom. And also I've said phrases like, I knew they didn't really like me, or I knew they weren't really attracted to me, or I knew I wasn't really qualified for that. That is reinforcing the self-sabotage. And
because it's like, well, I shouldn't have tried because I should have known that I didn't have the right experience.
Because then when the next person, thing, opportunity, or even friend comes along, you'd be like, well, no, because that's the same situation. They didn't like me last time. I knew they were looking at me in a way, or it didn't go the way I wanted it to, but it went the way you chose it to.
Yeah.
And you'll be doing that again.
Yeah, we're very strong believers, and again, it's something we always say, in that like, if you truly believe in something, then it will happen. And I was kind of thinking about this in relation to self-sabotage, because, you know, for example, like we were saying at the beginning of this episode, we truly believed that the podcast was good and that people will want to listen and people will listen and people will join us and things like this. And sometimes I say this to people and they think, oh, that's really, like, that's crazy optimistic. And I think, no, I genuinely do believe, like, it's something that I think is one of my core morals, is that people want to see people be happy and succeed. There obviously are a few bad eggs out there, but I think if you're doing something that you're so clearly passionate about, then people will want to see that.
Yeah.
Whether that's a relationship, whether that's a job, whether that's a hobby. And it's true. Like, we have evidence to show this. You know, the 3 years, people still say to us, like, I had one of our old friends message me the other day and was like, you can tell how passionate you are about it. And they were like, so it's just such an enjoyable to watch you grow and see you thrive. But then, in order to believe this so wholeheartedly as we do, I think you do have to acknowledge the other side of it, which is, if I sat here every week and said, no one will ever listen to the podcast, there's no point.
I'm so against that.
No one will ever listen, because, like, we're cutting ourselves short. We're not risking it and being a bit cheeky. You're never going to grow, because you're just, like, shielding yourself off from any light for that photosynthesis.
Yeah, because there's always going to be times where things are a bit more just slow paced, or you feel like it's not really reaching its full potential.
And we're not saying don't acknowledge that. Like, I think you can kind of sit in that for a bit. You know, this summer I kind of had it a bit with the podcast, where I was like, it feels like we're not progressing, and it feels like we're just sat all day every day just waiting for something to happen. And I think that's okay. And I think we're not saying that you need to be optimistic all the time and be hopeful all the time, but I think it's being able to pick yourself up after a certain amount of time and not getting stuck in those cycles that you were talking about, where it's
you have to limit it. Like, you have to set your own time limit to things. And, like, although you can't quite place restraints or, like, binaries on emotions, you can kind of place restraints on, I can't keep feeling like this without doing anything about it. Now it's time to rethink and rewire why I'm thinking these things.
And what can I do to get over this kind of bump in the road?
Yeah, like, we can't just wait. Like, yes, this too shall pass. About everything. But with its relationship, career, hobby, anything, if you're not actively pushing into it, if you're pushing every day into it and it's still not working, like with a person, you're like, I'm going to make this person like me. I'm doing this, this and this. And they just won't. You know you've put all into it. What more really can you do? But you're not messaging them. You've not even tried. Then what? Like, that's coming from an equal place of, like, yes, the world's not giving it to you, but what are you asking from the world?
You need to work towards it. And I think self-sabotage kind of, like thrives under not taking the steps to move forward.
And the insecurity in making any moves.
Yeah. And just kind of staying in neutral. Like, I hate staying in neutral. It's something that I think it is because I'm a bit of a like workaholic, but I hate just things staying the same. And I think in doing that, you can easily think things are going to get worse because things are staying the same. But I kind of flip it, and I think you need to think, well, things are going to get better because I'm going to work for things to get better and work for me to progress.
It's work hard, play hard, isn't it?
And again, it's that attitude that we were saying with our initial thoughts and the dilemma. It's the kind of like, it's not greedy to want more, and it's not greedy to want to work towards something, or it's not bad if you feel like your desire is to get in a relationship and be married within a year. If you think that's what you want, that's what you want, and I don't think you can feel guilty, because that's when you stop yourself.
Yeah.
And you kind of need to do it with conviction.
If anyone has seen that TikTok ad, I hate it so much, Charlie XCX's H&M collab, I'm against the collab. Something that she said in those words has resonated with me so hard. It was just like, you can do anything if you do it with conviction. But like, it's just so true.
It's so true. And I feel
true.
like it's like such a core belief, and it's what this pretty much this whole episode has been about, is like, you need to believe in yourself. And my contribution to the cheesy saying is, I was kind of thinking about that whole, like, if you don't love yourself, how is someone else going to? At the same time, if you don't believe in yourself that you can be happy or successful or do something to its full extent, how do you expect anyone else to? You know, if we never were really cheeky and went up to people when we had like 2 listeners, no one ever would have listened to us, because why would they?
I even have it with the TikTok. Like, if we weren't posting TikToks, so how was anyone ever going to see us on there?
Yeah.
You have to, like, I always say this on the show, I think, you have to be in it to win it. Like, the lottery said it first, but it is right. And I think
no one will believe you if you don't believe in yourself. Because no one wants to.
No, and I think I'm not too optimistic. I'm very optimistic, considering like
considering you're like a realist at your core.
Yeah, and we acknowledge that for some reason I just get bad luck.
Yeah,
I have the very bad.
Someone's put a really weird hex on you.
I think so, I always say this. Someone's evil-eyed me.
I think we need to get you some more crystals.
And this isn't self-sabotage, because I'm really optimistic. I just have bad luck and setbacks, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
Because it's across the board. It's not, in one thing. Yeah. Me not applying for jobs, so I don't have a job. Yeah. It's like not that kind of thing.
She does have a job.
Well, like,
for those who don't have context, like, that made it seem like you were like unemployed, lazy,
dirty, sleepy. But I still think you have to be like that. And everyone, even if you don't vocalize it, you do know some things you want out of life, and it doesn't have to be the dream person, the dream job, whatever. There is something everyone wants, and no one wants to be selfish, but selfish isn't a bad thing if it's not coming at the expense of how you treat the people around you. It's like I was saying, we were like manifesting our dream people, and I was like, I want someone self-assured but not cocky. You can know what you want out of life. You don't have to make it everyone's problem, but you are allowed to be selfish in taking what's in front of you without thinking how everyone's going to look at me by doing that. If that's what you want and you're doing it with conviction, then no one can tell you that that's the wrong decision for you, because you know it is right.
I think it's really hard to kind of pick yourself up and have that. Like, I think if you're, for example, the person with the dilemma, I think it's really hard when you're kind of in that hole and you're kind of thinking, oh, how, like, I don't think I deserve these things. But I do think you kind of need to just be like a grown-up and just like pick yourself up, because like you can't have someone else pick you up. Like, I think it helps to have friends, like we were saying, to kind of celebrate your wins and make you feel like you can succeed in things and not feel like you're being greedy. But I also think to a certain extent you need to believe it to your core that you do deserve happiness and you do deserve success, because otherwise self-sabotage is more often than not subconscious and you're not realizing you're doing it. And it is crazy how much it can happen. Do you know, like, even when it comes to relationships, you can actually brainwash yourself into thinking you never liked the person without even realising. You could be saying with your whole heart, oh, it's fine, I didn't like them anyway.
You did. But everyone around you could tell.
Yeah, but you can genuinely believe that, like, oh, I didn't want it anyway, or like, oh, yeah, I actually didn't want that job because I don't think it'd be for me. You know, sometimes I even find myself saying to people, like, oh, yeah, like, to be honest, I don't think funding would have been, like, that great anyway. And I'm like, no, like, that's okay. You can have really wanted that scholarship or that person. And it's okay years down the line, if everything's worked out fine, to just be like, oh, it still would have been great if I had that. But your brain can really, like, rewire things and be like, I never really wanted funding anyway. And I think you're lying. You're absolutely lying.
You have to, like, go for it. And it's okay. If you get it, you get it.
And it's okay if that doesn't happen and you're fine. But you don't need to rewrite the past to be like, well, I never wanted it. Because you did, and that's okay. And life moves on. What was your little, the sun will rise anyway.
The sun will rise in the morning.
Yeah.
Unless you're in Iceland.
And so it's like, if something didn't go your way, you don't need to get in that cycle. You don't need to get in that cycle of, well, that didn't work out, so nothing's going to work out. But you also don't have to be glass full all the time and say, oh, well, that didn't work out, but, you know, that's fine. I don't know if you saw this on my feed page the other day. I watched someone get made redundant. Have you seen this? And she was on a Zoom call, and yeah, the person doing the redundancy was really, like, audibly upset. She was like, I'm really sorry, like, I really don't want to do this, but we've made cuts, and your job role, regardless of you as a person, your job role's just been cut, so we're gonna have to let you go. And the person just sat there and was like, that's okay, like, that's what happens. And I think that's really fair, but I'm not expecting you to go and do that. Like, I'm not expecting you to hear bad news and be like, this is okay, because I'm not gonna self-sabotage. You can be upset and you can,
but it's more just accepting of, like, the good things. And also, one of my final points would be that when this good thing comes, and you can ease yourself into starting accepting it and stuff. I hate the, like, but it's only.
Oh yeah, I'm such a sucker for that.
Yes, because I tell you to, like, I say it's not only. Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's not only this
I'm always like, but it's only 40 hours.
Yeah, but it's like 40 hours of making £1 million. Okay, cool, that's £1 million.
I'm not making £1 million. But
it's like, the outcome of what you're getting from it, it's not it's only. It's the thing that you asked for, applied for, got offered. Yeah. Or, it's only, you know, my first relationship, whatever. Yeah. That's your first relationship, and that's insane. Yeah. Hey guys, the battery died. But what I was saying was, and we had to be in silence then because I was going to forget my point. The more accepting you are of the praise as it's coming, and the more you are able to praise yourself, the less surprising it will be when good things do come along. And then it's not going to be this shock out of the blue of, what is this thing in front of me? Why is there this golden key? Where has it come from?
And then you start overthinking it.
Yeah, for instance, you know, if you're at work and you're just plodding along, be like, I'm good at my job, you know, I'm really trying. Yes, if you're giving yourself that praise every day and then you're given that promotion, it's not a, what? Am I qualified for this promotion? It's, well, I was telling myself the whole time that I could have been getting the one above,
and it's
so here we go.
Not to say that in accepting praise you're going to offset the, like, cycles of misogyny and sexism, but I do think it kind of, it's those small steps towards fixing that kind of innate insecurity feeling that I feel like a lot of women have, especially in the professional world. And I think it's so important to be able to accept praise, compliments, good things that come your way, because it leaves you open to more. Like, I always think I'll always accept praise and I'll always accept a compliment, because, like, why would I not? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm very much like, someone, you know, do you remember, like, 5-ish years ago, I don't know if this was, like, a sign of the times or if it's, like, a sign of the age, like, I've never, like, thought more into it.
Let's unpack it.
When people would compliment you and you'd be like, oh no, like, you'd be like, throw it off and be like, oh no, like, thanks for the outfit, but, like, there's actually, like, a massive hole in the t-shirt. Do you remember? Like, I don't know if it was, like, a sign of times or sign of the age.
You have to just detract from the compliment in some way.
And I think it's very, like, Mean Girls-esque, isn't it? Like, oh, so you think you're really pretty. Like, it's kind of like you can't accept the praise. And I think that is rooted in that. While it's a small interaction, you know, someone said, oh, you're really pretty, and you're like, thanks, and they're like, you think you're really pretty. That is the small example of self-sabotage, because you can't accept it.
Yeah.
Like, I always accept compliments and stuff, because why would I put that thought into people's heads? You know, someone now and then someone will like compliment my outfit, I'm like, I'm not even gonna lie to you, I threw it together this morning. Like, there is not effort into this. That's different. But I think if someone was to compliment my outfit, why would I put it into their brains to be like, oh, thanks, like, I actually, like, I don't know, like, I think, like, the skirt's a bit, like, of a weird length. Like, I do, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, you know, sometimes, I know, especially, like, for example, like, my tailor t-shirt, I remember someone was like your t-shirt, and I was like, thanks, I can't tell if it's too small for me. And it's like, no, you can be like, what do you think of the fit? Like, do you think that's, like, you know, like, but you don't need to necessarily negate it, because it's then, like, you know, like you were saying, then when someone gives you promotion, you can be like, thanks, I am deserving of this, or like, thanks, it means a lot that you think of me with this role.
I don't know what it is, and I feel so, and I always say that, but you know, there's some sort of context, and I always say it when we're talking about things. I'm like, why would you even put that in their head? Because when you said that, I don't know what it is that I usually say it about, but it's like no one was thinking about that, and you saying that. It's always in emails. Emails or something. Do it in emails. If you say something, I'm always like, to negate before anyone's even got there yet.
Yeah, it gives them the option to say it. I think I normally do it with like, I'm really bad at like apologising if like something's slightly late. Or I'm like, sorry, I had a really busy week. Like, I've actually not done that much work on this. It's like, well, they actually, like, they wouldn't think that. Or,
you're sending off the work.
Yeah, and I always do it with drafts. I'm always like, I'm not sure it's my best work.
Yeah, and because it's like now people are setting that expectation of this is probably not going to be her best work.
And you know, every time I send off a draft, I never get like, I'm always like, it's a draft. I always say that. I'll be like,
this is draft
This is draft, yeah, like very like, you know, because I think I was always scared that I would send it off and be like, this is my greatest work, and then they humble me. But I think it's an example of like, if you believe it to be the best work that you could do in that moment, then it will be. And people then go into it with more positivity, and I think it's how you respond to criticism and how you respond to rejection is that I feel like, and this is something, am I going to say this? Yeah. I was like, and then I was like, no one's actually going to hear it. Is that in my cohort, and I showed Eliz this the other day, is that someone put in there like, oh yeah, I got this really negative feedback in my supervision, and everyone was kind of going in the group chat like, oh yeah, I've received this negative feedback, and I was like, wow. And I said to Eliz, I was like, I never have this. And then I went away and I was like, I'm sure like that was a really silly thing to say. Like, I'm sure I have had feedback that, you know, I'm surely I don't have every meeting that's positive. And I think I did some soul-searching. I sat there on my own and I thought about it for a little bit. And I think the thing is that yes, I get negative feedback, I get criticism, but because I'm so receptive to it, and it's something that, like, again, not to pick myself up, but I'm gonna, because that's what the episode's about, is that people always say to me, you know, when they, for example, like my progression meeting, that is something where they're supposed to like tear the thing down and be like, this is what you should do. But I make it into a conversation. Like, I don't let someone be like, you know, like your chapter structure, it's not it. Like, it's not it. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, God, I suck. I'll be like, yeah, you know what? Funny you say that, because I actually agree, and I actually think that is really, you know, it's how you respond to it that means that when you get this criticism, A, they're not going to be rude to you, because why would they sit there and be like, no, actually, your title sucks? Why would they do that if I'm always like, no, I really appreciate that feedback, and I actually think, yeah, I am gonna, you know, going into it with that positive mindset, you know, if someone rejects you, you're like, okay, that's fine, like, I've had that experience now.
It's all about experience. Like, going on a date, if the last person said they didn't like you or they ghosted you or whatever, like, you're not defined by them. No. You can go into it, taking it back to the successes, is that you're then going into it with these like predetermined thoughts about things, that you don't need to do that, because then when they turn around and like you, you're not going to negate from it before anything's even started.
And I think it's really important to kind of rewire and it's something we do a lot in our personal lives, is that, you know, you realise you do something, you take the steps to actively change it so that it becomes a habit. I think it's really important to kind of see feedback and criticism and think like, this isn't a negative thing. And I think that's why I have such a healthy relationship with, you know, marked work, and it's not something that came naturally to me. I used to get really annoyed if I had like negative feedback, but it's, you know, taking it in your stride and having this positive relationship with feedback, that when you get it, you can think like, this isn't a mean thing, this is someone
it's not personal.
No,
because there was this the infamous comparative piece of work that I did that I thought was absolutely slay.
That we somehow fit into every conversation we ever have on
I don't know if I've ever told you guys about this, but this piece of work, and my heart and soul was in there. You read it. We were like,
we loved it.
Damn, this, like, publish it right now.
Yeah.
Don't even get it like checked, just publish it. And then it came back absolutely torn through. Like, they were basically, this is not a good piece of work. And I was like, I get it, I respect it.
In hindsight,
you're wrong.
In hindsight as well, I think you were writing it for something different than what they had been expecting.
It was just a different, just looking at it from different perspectives, and that's what so much of things are. And again, to put it back to this dilemma, everything will always be looked at in different perspectives. You can choose the positive one in that. With that, I was like, I enjoyed what I wrote. Passed. So cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing it. It was a really like fun use of time. And I have to quote Perks being a wallflower. Had to do it to
I was not expecting this.
You accept the love you think you deserve. And it's true.
Yeah.
If all you think you are deserving of is bad things, you'll accept it, and then more bad things will come.
And like criticism.
Yeah.
And like if you're going into something thinking, oh, like I'm going into this meeting and they're gonna tear apart my entire chapter that I've just spent months on, then when they give a slight like criticism, you're gonna be like,
I knew it. See, this is why I don't go into things positively.
Yeah.
I hate the reinforcement of like, this is why we can't have good things. Like, no, like it'll obviously take time, but let's just take it one step at a time to be like, things can be good. Things can be really, really good, and then the stresses that come with that don't tear everything down.
Yeah, and I think
at all.
It's the steps you take to do this, and I don't think anyone completely always feels that way. You know, I don't think there's anyone out there who never self-sabotages. You know, I don't think there's anyone who feels positively about anything, but I think if you can take the steps to get slightly closer to that, then you'll live like a happier, more like, I don't know,
complete
life,
because you are not living in the complete life if you're not doing what you want to do. And this is like a warning, advice, it's positive, it's haunting, it's harrowing, all at once.
The closing statement.
The only person it affects is you. It's true.
Yeah.
Okay, you will self-sabotage, and you've sabotaged yourself.
Yeah. In the word's original form.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, change it.
Yeah.
And it might be more than just a flip of a switch. It might be actually rewiring at the back of that switch, but you have to do something because you're not happy with it. Full stop.
Yeah, I do want to add on to that. I like that as the final sentence, so I'm cutting myself off. But this was a fun episode, guys.
It was. I really liked it.
It was a great episode to celebrate our 3rd birthday, I think.
And also for us, it's like Monday lunchtime. It's setting up for a good, positive, successful week.
But you know, it's the weekend for you guys, so you can do the same thing.
Put on Successful by Ariana Grande. Love doing that sometimes. A really good, like, mood booster. I don't know, sometimes you just need it.
Yeah.
And have a great week, day, month.
Yeah. Oh, it's giving, we've said this before, it's giving end of a yoga session.
Yeah. No,
I feel grateful
true.
for those around you.
Thank you for joining us today. We really hope that you'll join us in the next session. And if you take away whatever you need to.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes.
If you want more of us in the space until our next episode in a couple of weeks' time, you can find all of our journalism on our website, www.plumvibrations.co.uk.
I feel very grateful for Becky that she puts it there every time.
Because
I check.
It looks so silly. Like, one of these times you could just leave and be like, lol, psych.
Like, why are you, like, stroking the screen for?
And the funny thing is, guys, that, like, as you're watching, if you watch these episodes, I suppose, is that, like, you need to know that, like, Becky, like, is now at the point where she doesn't run things by us. Like, we trust her wholeheartedly, which means she has such the potential to make us look so goofy. Do you know, like, the odd moment where it's like, no, I've forgotten what I was going to say. and then just sit in silence. Like, she could just leave that in, and it's just us looking dumb. So yeah, I think like while we're talking about gratitude and milestones, a moment for Becky. Yes,
Becky.
Yes.
And
dedicate
also
this to her.
her perseverance through having to research dog that looks like Justin Bieber, dog that looks like Hailey Bieber. We thank you, Becky. But yes, if you want our Instagram, it's blonde_vibrations. If you want our TikTok, blonde vibrations. If you work at Wagamama's, don't go on there. Anything else, search for us, follow, like, share. Who are we sharing it to?
We're sending this episode to someone who you think is slaying at life right now and deserves to celebrate that. You're going to go out for like Vapianos and like have an Aperol spritz to
celebrate.
Yeah.
Send this to someone that could use a little bit of positivity. Don't say which one. Just be like, oh my god, there's a daddy long legs in here.
Send this to your local daddy long legs.
I was talking about them the other day. The difference between that and a mosquito.
Oh, that's quite a lot.
Well, it's not buzzing, so it's fine. Send this to someone who just, you know, they're really trying to strive right now for success and happiness and optimism. Because I think this is a really good one. It doesn't have to be like you're so negative, like you're self-sabotaging, but it's just we could all do a bit more positivity.
It's like uplift yourself. It's giving put your own oxygen mask on before you put on the child's.
Yes.
Put your oxygen mask on, get your like positivity and your like healthy thought processes, and then pass it over to a friend.
Facts. That's all I think.
And what is it Harry says? Fill your own cup up with love and let them bathe in the overflow. He's not behind us,
but he's in front of us.
He's here in spirit.
Mama, a Harry in front of you.
Mama, and a blank wall behind you.
This is my final bit. Is Mama, a life of success and happiness in front of you.
Mama, self-sabotage behind you. You're leaving it in the past.
Yes. Okay.
Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye. Love you.
Bye. Bye.